Alrighty, it says we are live. So, hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Oh, Wolfman.
And I'm Vincent DiSanti.
That's right, you guys. We are joined once again by a old show friend and, quite frankly, filmmaking partner at this point because we are still in the process of Dylan's New Nightmare. We'll get into a little bit of an update with all of that along the way, but thank you very much to Vince for joining as my opponent, quote unquote, for this episode. We had a very successful launch with Dave McCrae last month, and Vin is here, and Vin is the one, well, actually, Dave's out there making films now, too, with It's Me, Billy, and getting all kinds of meetings, apparently, but Vin's been doing it for years. He's been getting meetings for years, so Vin knows how to craft pitches. Vin knows the industry on a perhaps more interactive and slightly deeper level than for sure I do, perhaps than Dave does. And so I'm very interested and glad to have Vince join me for this episode. Once again, guys, Hellevator Pitch is all about creativity. It's a battle of ideas, okay? And what we do is we come up with 3 different film pitches. You guys actually give us one of the baselines for said film pitch that we only get 5 minutes to come up with our full pitches for. And then there are 2 other categories. One is usually a themed category, which works well, obviously, for November. I'm guessing that you guys can guess the theme for the themed pitch, which is, of course, Thanksgiving. So November is the month of Thanksgiving, so we decided to do a Thanksgiving-themed horror film pitch for category number 1. Category number 2, as always, is going to be the audience selection pitch. And then category 3 is our predetermined pitch. And we can actually switch those if we want, quite frankly, since we've thought about them. The thing is, we want to determine how much time we have for each pitch, right? Pitch number 1, you get 3 minutes. Pitch number 2, you get 4 minutes. Pitch number 3, you get 5 minutes. The reason there are these time limits, guys, and the reason the show is called Hellevator Pitch is, once again, the origins of it is that the idea behind it is the elevator pitch, okay? So the elevator pitch is a thing where, what would you do if you happened to step on the elevator with a film executive of some kind, or someone, let's call them a Netflix script reader, or God, whoever the hell is the gatekeeper at this point. Vin, you could speak to it more than me at this point, but what if you got into an elevator with this person and you had either 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes? You had, say, 30 floors, 40 floors, or 50 floors in order to deliver your pitch to this person before they get off the elevator and out of your life forever. That's the idea of Hellevator Pitch. Once again, Hellevator, of course, because they're horror ideas. They're ideas that you would come up with if you were on an elevator in hell. So that is the long and short of it. So, Vin, being someone that's actually out there in LA, someone that's worked in Hollywood for years, tell me, what do you think about this? I mean, is this something that is actually a phenomenon out there? Or is this just like kind of an old wives' tale?
Yeah, writers are getting in elevators all over town, pitching their hearts out. Now, I mean, the elevator pitch really is born in between, like, how quickly can you get someone enveloped in your story and take an interest in to say this could be a feature film, or this could be a TV show, or this could be whatever it is, a TikTok video, a short film, an ad, a commercial. And pitching is one of my favorite things. It's one of the first things I was taught when I got into the industry, once I started getting into development.
Hey, everyone.
Pitching your ideas, coming up with concepts, and not just throwing ideas against the wall, but also understanding how they stick and what makes them stick, and certain techniques that work, being direct and to the point, coming up with very, short ideas that say a lot, without having to go into detail. Well, if you go into the backstory of this character, and all of a sudden you've lost your person because you're going into minor detail. It's about the broad strokes of your ideas and presenting them to someone who has the power to either get you a meeting or fund you. In the real world, when you have an idea, you have to go in and you have to pitch to development executives. You can go to investor meetings and pitch investors. And ultimately, you want people to believe that not only is this project a good idea, but that you're passionate about it and that you can get it done. And so part of the pitch kind of goes into showing someone that you have a clear vision for an idea and executing that. And part of the fun of the pitch is like the pitch itself. It's showing how ingrained into the story you are. And so it was a pretty cool challenge, because sometimes like this, which is pretty cool, like Cecil, you and I have been talking about when we were going to do this, but for me, like, it was this week that you were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And, you know, Thanksgiving pitch, and we have the other thing, and you have a few days to figure it out. And sometimes that's what it is in the industry. Some days somebody calls you up, you never know when it's going to be, and they're like, hey, we're looking for this type of thing. Can you come up with a couple of pitches, come in and pitch us? And with a rough idea, you know, come in and tell us what you think. And you could be going in with 10 other writers, and one of those writers' idea is going to get picked. There's no script, there's no, you know, beat board, there's no storyboards. That, you know, maybe you can get like some art together if you're really good, or if that's where you come from. But, you know, it ultimately it's you performing it as the movie is you and doing that. So I really enjoy that process, and I've cornered a few people in my lifetime, be like, you know, it's a really good idea, you know, it's a really good scene, and like acted it out. So I'm really excited about this.
Well, and that's part of why I wanted to have you on, because I know this is kind of your wheelhouse, and I'm excited because I've seen you on your film sets, and I've seen how you operate, and I know that you're kind of an idea guy. You know, you'll have to come up with solutions on the fly. That's what a director does, right? An indie film director, essentially. Mm-hmm. You're coming up with solutions to problems on the fly all throughout your process, and a lot of that comes down to creativity, and when you're writing the material as well as directing it, then, you know, you generally have an insight and a desire to tell stories from a deeper level, from inside, as well as on a professional, let me direct this and present it to the world side as well. So it's great to have you on, and I'm excited. And look, I mean, if I'm honest, I'm fully anticipating losing this episode, but it's going to be a fun fight nonetheless. But one of the things I did want to address is, of course, Dylan's new nightmare. Vince is obviously a producer and taking on a bigger role as well along the way, because of some shifting behind the scenes. Likely going to be an assistant director sort of situation, as long as everyone's still cool with everything. What's happening is we are still waiting for the border situation to resolve itself. We were supposed to get an update November 20th. I checked. We actually got an update on November 19th. And it says now that if someone from Canada comes to the U.S. and it's a 72-hour turnaround, then you don't have to quarantine, you don't have to do anything crazy. But obviously, shooting Dylan's New Nightmare, it would be longer than that turnaround. So we're still trying to figure out exactly what we can do. But we're planning to film in either late Q1 or early Q2 of 2022. And it is... everyone is on board. Everyone's got that time frame. And one of the nice things is, quite frankly, Vin, everyone involved with the project is continuing to give reasons why they should pay attention to our project. You, obviously, with Never Hike in the Snow, and you're going to be launching the campaign for the remainder of the Never Hike Alone 2 sequel. And then Dave obviously did It's Me, Billy in the interim. Nora, our special effects the head of our special effects team, she is getting kudos for her work on Ghostbusters Afterlife right now. So like, everyone is out there making sure that, you know, the quality of our film is going to be fucking amazing still. So it's everything is still on track, and it's still very, very exciting, even though it's taken as long as it has. So as long as we can figure out the border situation with the new restrictions that are in place, then we're planning to have things go ahead. So, Vin, I imagine that you're still just as excited about the project, but you are, you know, understanding of these things we're running into.
Yeah, I mean, and no one understands it more than I, you know, with Never Hike in the Snow, we experienced lots of delays. We were lucky to finish before the pandemic hit. And even then, we experienced things like a crew member's father dying, delays with production materials for getting Blu-rays out. And so, if anything, the past year and a half has taught me to just be patient. And, and I've never worried about this. I mean, everybody who's associated with this project, from you to Miko to Nora to Dave to myself and everyone else who's surrounding it to get the project done, we know the material that we need. We were already set up to shoot. It's just about reassembling it, but we want to make sure that we're spending the money properly. And we have a finite amount of resources. We're not New Line Cinema, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, we'll just dip back into those Hobbit residuals.
Oh my God.
And pump out another 5 million so we can wait. Like, there are other things too, like COVID compliance and other things that create more cost for the films. And congratulations to us for running a second campaign and finally reaching our goal.
Yes.
So we've been slowly, it's not the sexy stuff of filmmaking where we're out there and showing you things and shooting on set, but the things we're doing behind the scenes logistically are making this a strong production. So now we're well funded. We know what we need to do and we execute, and we're going to be spending a lot of time in the pre-production phase, which is great. More pre-production never hurts a film, unless we end up rewriting it from scratch and doing a bad job. But we're not really changing much. We're just sitting and looking at what we have and figuring out the cost of everything. And so, the longer we have to do that, the more we have to discuss sort of the visual styles and how we're going to execute those things and some of the special effects. It just gives us more time to prepare. And then we got to get Dave down here for an extended period of time. And a lot of that relies on that. So, we have no control. We're not dictating border security and COVID protocol. So we sort of have to be smart. And as long as we, just protect those funds and act smart and get people what they need, eventually this film, we get to shoot it and release it, and no one's going to worry about how long it took once it comes out.
Agreed. Yeah, we're controlling what we can control. And that is, while we're waiting for the uncontrollables, we're managing all the stuff in the behind the scenes. And again, like Vin said, it's only going towards making this project stronger as a whole. So everything is on track, and we're at this point, over the last year and a half to 2 years, we're closer than we ever have been to production. So that is exciting. So we will obviously keep everyone informed as everything goes along, but let me just say welcome to a few people in the chat, and then let's get these pitches rolling, sir. Thank you to Eddie D for joining. Horrorhead Heather is here. Mitch the Ripper is here. Jordan Moran was here. Sam Glass in the chat. And Movie Mike was here earlier as well. So thank you guys, everyone, for joining. And it is time to get into the actual ideas. So for the first pitch, once again, we do a themed pitch. Now, this one, we kind of knew what the theme was going to be ahead of time, so we just went ahead and thought of it ahead of time. Last time, Dave and I came up with our Halloween-themed ideas on the spot. We didn't have to do that this time. There's only one idea that we'll think of on the spot, the audience choice. So we will get there. But first is the themed idea, which was, of course, being November. We wanted to come up with a Thanksgiving horror idea. Now, Vin, to determine who goes first, I have my magic red and blue coin here from one of the Fable games. Okay. Let's you call red or blue when I flick. All right. So
okay.
In 3, 2, 1.
Red.
All right. I have it here, and let's see what it ends up as. We got red. All right. So you get to choose. Do you want to go first this round and then second next round, and then we'll flip for the third round? Or do you want to go second this round, first next round, and then we'll flip?
I want to go second this round, first next round.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So for the Thanksgiving horror idea, you said you want to go first this round?
Second
this round. Okay, got it. All right, so that means I am first, and here we go. Let me pull up the correct timer. So the first pitch is a 3-minute elevator ride. So it is going to be a 3-minute timer. Let me get it going and stop and start it. All right, and then I will launch into my pitch. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so my pitch is called Giving Thanks, and basically what happens is it's about a woman in her 30s who invites 7 people over to her extravagant mansion. Okay, there's 5 men and 2 women. to participate in a sort of eclectic Thanksgiving feast. All of these people don't necessarily have heavy families. They're all successful in their own right, but they're all pretty much kind of loners. But each person has helped her get to where she is. That's why they all received this letter and this invite in order to attend this Thanksgiving. So they all go there, and the idea is she is giving thanks to all the people that helped her along the way. She goes and excuses herself in order to finish her preparations, and all of the other people start talking, and they slowly start to discover that not all of them actually helped her along the way. In fact, each and every one of them did something to hinder her ability to excel along the way over the past decade. And so what we discover is that she has actually gathered all the people that stopped her, and each time they stopped her progressing, she turned to a demon to help her overcome that hurdle. So now she has gathered all 7 of these souls of people that stopped her along the way, that she then had to ask a demon for help. Every time she asked the demon for help, she had to sacrifice the life of someone else. So the demon has gotten 7 souls along the way, and now it's getting these final 7 souls of all the people that actually stopped her along the way. And what we find out is the movie is called The Pilgrim's Feast. And this is what happened is, years and years ago, Native Americans that were betrayed by the Pilgrims made a deal with a demon in order to trade the lives of 7 pilgrims that wronged them in order to get vengeance for all their brethren that were killed when the Pilgrims arrived. And this demon has made it every 10 years, he finds a lost soul that was wronged by others and gets them to gather those souls in order to take them to hell. And this is the new version of that. So this is a pilgrim's feast, and this woman gathers all of these people. And it's, again, I think the false pretense aspect of it can lead to dramatic actual interactions between the people as they slowly discover, like, wait, we're not actually good people. We're all fucking dicks that hurt her along the way. And now we're going to see the comeuppance. And at one point, she actually like pulls the carpet back, and you see that there are sigils under all of the guest chairs that bind them in order for the demon to rip them all apart. And I'm out of time.
Boom.
Nice, right under the wire.
So that is my pitch. All right, Vin, you are up, and let me stop and give you a 5 countdown. All right, ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The title of my movie is called The Green Valley Massacre, and it follows a group of pioneers on the Oregon Trail who have been starving and willing to survive, who end up taking a small native village by force and then dealing with the fallout of those consequences when they were trying to survive. So the whole film is built around this small community of they're going out on the wagons across the West, and they come across the Green Valley, which is beautiful. And finally, after all these months of traveling, they're hungry, they're running out of supplies. They see this place, and they find this small group of Native Americans living on the shoreline of this big lake, and ride in and ask if they can stay. And the natives basically say no. And as they're being turned away, their leader, we'll call him John, ends up making a very important decision. He decides that they're going to go no longer and they're going to fight, picks up a gun and shoots the head of this small tribe, which is not many people. It's a very small little community of natives, and starts firing on these natives who have no weapons other than, typical native stuff. There's no guns, no anything. And because the pilgrims have guns, not pilgrims, but pioneers have guns, they're able to sort of wipe out this entire village in a matter of minutes. And it's not necessary, and I would say that this film is set in a world that's like an A24's The Witch, very of its time, 1700s, 1800s, early colonial pioneer times, when that's where the technology was, and there was no like internet where somebody could film this and say, look at all the bad things they did. All they have to do is take over this land and it's theirs. And that's sort of the pitch of it, is the fact that it's either us or them. Either we die or they die. And that's the choice that this pioneer had made. And so when they move into this town and they take over this Native American town, it's not necessarily sitting well with his his brethren. They have a few months to prepare for the oncoming winter, and so they say, listen, we're going to pick up where these natives left off. We're going to be here, and we'll talk about these decisions that we've made, but I have saved us, so you owe me. And that's sort of the leader's kind of thing. And so in the middle of this film, it's more about sort of the social tensions that are going on, and the fact that this person has made this decision, and people who want to now sort of leave and desert them, and what it takes with the corruption of power. And it all ends in the final act with a large, they're getting together for Thanksgiving. They're sort of forcing everybody to come together as a community and say, we're going to get together, we're going to get over this, and life will be better. And in the middle of this dinner, a rain of arrows run down from the outside force, because this wasn't just a small community. This was an outcropping of a larger native population that lived many miles away. And those who got away from the massacre that night have brought on this reign of fury for these people who live in this town. And the final act is basically the raid meets 30 Days of Night, with these pilgrims and pioneers trying to escape this town, with a horde of Native Americans running into town and just basically ripping these people apart and killing them and making them pay for what they've done. And I thought that was pretty evident of a nice Thanksgiving movie.
All right, right on time as well. All right, so there you guys go. That is the 2 ideas. So let me go ahead and run a poll in the chat here. YouTube allows us to run polls now, so let me figure out how the hell I'm supposed to do that again. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Create a poll. All right, so who won round 1? And that would be Cecil with the Pilgrim's Feast Revenge. Well, the Pilgrim's Feast, I'll just call it.
Yeah.
And then Vince with, what was yours called again?
Green Valley.
The Green Valley Massacre.
Green Valley Massacre. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys, go ahead and vote in that. We will let everyone make their determination. But, so yeah, I thought about maybe going old school like you with like some sort of, you know, original massacre tale, but I just wanted to sort of more allude to it with mine. No, I think your idea would have that badass final act for sure.
Yeah, definitely a slow burn, and also sort of like the social commentary in the middle of like a choice has been made, and a lot of people in that group weren't a part of it. This leader made a choice, and the other people have to deal with the consequences of it. And a lot of people in that group are probably good people. They would have never done that, but now they're sort of like, what else are they going to do? Where else are they going to go? This is their tribe. So if they leave this tribe, they're as good as dead on the open road. And this is their best chance to survive. But how do you now interact with these people in the social comment? So there's going to be things like there would be things through the middle that sort of build up to towards the you know, the guilt and everything that's kind of going on. Maybe seeing some native like presence there. Like, is it a ghost or what is it? And it ends up turning out that it's the bigger population spying on these people, and they're like, we're gonna fucking make you pay. And then sort of like that kind of action ending, which I thought would be kind of cool.
It would be, but on the other hand, my idea, I quite enjoyed, because it's, you know, obviously it's a faux Thanksgiving, right? She's gathering these people to give thanks for how they helped along the way, but obviously there's a sinister plot, and I like the possibility for the dramatic beats in mine, where the people that think they're gathered there because they, you know, these are the kind of people, the kind of assholes that would think, I did help her along the way, I deserve to be invited to this party, you know, like, she's so successful now, everyone knows how successful she is, and I helped her along the way, when in actuality they all fucking tried to hinder her, but they all see it like, it seems like there's rife possibilities. There could be some sort of sexual things that she's had with either men or women involved with who she brought on, you know, that she was kind of taken advantage of along the way. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of possibility there for good drama, and of course revealing that they're all sacrifices at the end, and they all get fucking ripped to shreds, kind of in a Hellraiser sort of fashion. By the end, I don't know. I felt like it was. I was just basically, my thought process was, how do I take the Thanksgiving feast and turn it on its head? And I thought this would be a really fun way to sort of dive into that.
Yeah, I was coming from like it actually the original part of the pitch sort of came from the fog. Like I was thinking like, oh, what if there's like a fog type thing where like something's coming back from the past, and I was having trouble like sort of coming up with like the film logic for it. Like, well, what's going to be the thing? Like in the fog, it was like 100 years later and from something Bay and all that stuff. And I was like, this doesn't really fit. Like, there's no. And there was I came up with some really bad ideas for how they came back. And then it was something about like, as I was thinking about what happened in the past, the story of the past sort of took over, and I started reading some things about not even like Native Americans. There was something called the Mountain View Massacre or something like that, about like Mormons killing a bunch of people that rode into town because they were afraid that they were going to like de-Mormonize like that area of Utah. So they murdered like 120 people, and all these people were put on trial. And I was sort of like, oh, that's kind of interesting, like that type of like human nature, how we make those rash decisions, especially in the past. People made those, like they would on a dime like turn and just kill 120 people, and saying like, wow, like a lot of the times like people got away with it and they just took over swaths of land and lived there, and people went on and generations went on, but it started with this like awful bloodshed. So how do you tell a story about that? And then I started thinking about the context of the witch and sort of that type of, I was like, ooh, this isn't a really cool sort of like space and tone, and you can do some things about like what types of conversations did happen in the past, and how would have somebody who would say had more like forward thinking thoughts, like modern day people, like what if they were in that sort of society, like how would that have worked? So I think there was just a lot for me that I was like, okay, I can understand how I can grow this and create tension and dread, even just by like the collapsing of this community before the actual threat comes in and tears them apart.
Mitch the Ripper says, I can see Cecil's idea being a sequel to Vin's with a little tweaking.
Yeah, I know, they could be connected back and forth.
All right, so we have 11 votes, and currently you are ahead by one vote with 55% to 45%. Yep. So let's we have 15 people watching. I don't know if we can squeeze any more votes out of this, or if I should jump on and fucking vote, because god damn it. I already threw
my vote in.
Son of a bitch.
Who did you vote for? Where to vote?
What?
Don't be a pussy. Who'd you vote for?
Like making a wish. You can't say
don't be a pussy. Who'd you vote for? Yeah, that's right.
I don't even know how to vote. I don't see the vote button.
I don't either. How do I vote? Wait, do I gotta go to the chat?
It's like another vote, you know, you could.
Yeah, where is it? In the live chat?
I don't see it. I think it's because I log in as me. So, you can vote for you and I can't vote for me. Son of a bitch.
It's good. No, I'm not going to vote. I'm not. I thought we don't get a vote.
No, we're good. So we're still at 11 votes. I don't think it's going to change. If we got to 12, maybe it would be a split. I don't know if there's one person out of the 16 viewing, out of the 14 that aren't me and Vin, or the 13 that aren't me, Vin, and Robert. Could vote once and just even it up, so I'm not losing right out of the gate. God damn it! All right, well,
and Survivor 2002. Yeah, Mohawk was definitely like one of the films that came into my head as far as that. But I think this would be a little bit more in like the witch's world.
Sam, that's Survivor 2002 is Sam Glass. So he's
Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Sam's a really good guy. He's been 12 votes. We're 50-50. This isn't over yet.
Oh no!
Don't you dare vote! Don't you fucking!
Someone changed the vote.
Don't you dare vote! God damn. Son of a bitch!
No, just kidding. No,
I can't vote. All right, so next vote determines it. 13 votes, and I just took the lead.
Okay,
all right. So let's give it a second. This happened the first time. Dave jumped out ahead in the first one, and then I ended up taking the first category. But we're at 13 votes.
Mike.
Let's go ahead and give it. Robert, vote for whoever has the most generous bribe. Hey, Robert, you know I have a lot of vodka down there. I got some food.
You know, I got my whole bottle of mead.
Yeah, that's true. Robert, by the way, makes mead, and we're in the process of preparing something regarding all of that.
True.
So, all right, let's. We got 13 votes. Let's go ahead and it's 1:34. We'll call it at what do you think? 1:40. Give it another 6 minutes. All right, we'll give it another 6 minutes to see if we get any more people filtering in. Just to be like, I could end it right now and say I won this category, but let's give it another 6 minutes to see if we get more than 13 votes. But I gotta say, guys, I like my idea. I wasn't a big fan of the witch, Vin. So, like...
Well, I mean, I think that not the witch, like, it would be... I'm talking about, like, aesthetically. It
I get it,
like
aesthetically, but...
like, you...
But I just feel like mine, there's a lot more opportunity to have fun, especially if in this day and age, if it's a woman that's been held back the entire time by all of these people. I feel like there's... Now, the question I had is, at the end of my movie, would the demon then consume her soul as well and then choose a new victim going forward? Or, would she kind of get away with it and now be in control of the demon? I would lean more towards the first one on that and have it kind of wrap itself up, and that's why it chooses a new person every 10 years. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's sort of, yeah, I mean, I think that would sort of be the final thing. Like, they have to be the final sacrifice. They have to be willing to go down with the ship. And they're willing to, because it's like they've already experienced as much pain as they're ever going to do. So as long as they get to pull everyone else down with them, they're sort of, it's like a self-sacrifice. Or that's sort of like, I mean, any deal with the devil always ends with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
That's the way to kind of
But
go.
then I would think it would probably have to be maybe every 30 years rather than every 10. Right, because if this person's been struggling for enough years and they've only been at the top for a few, I don't think that would be enough. So maybe the sacrifice would happen every 30 years. So the person that would end up sacrificing themselves would consider it worth it. They get like 20 years of amazing fucking life, and then they just kind of go out. But yeah. So, all right, we got 4 more minutes. I'm still holding with the 13 votes, but...
I really like Mitch's pitch. It's really good. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with a guy setting up another dude as a serial killer. That's great.
See, when I was talking to Robert ahead of time, I was trying to think of Thanksgiving ideas, because there's not that many Thanksgiving horror movies out there. And I was like, well, what are other Thanksgiving movies that you could turn horror? And I was like, well, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is the biggest fucking Thanksgiving movie there is. So it would be like a guy trying to get home for the holidays, and he runs afoul of someone bad, or is
no,
he
I think
the person bad?
No, he's a guy in need, and this generous person shows up and says, hey, I'm going that way, come with me. And I think in that sense it would be a reverse, where like the guy giving the ride is, well, I guess it's the same thing. It's Del Griffin. Like, Steve Martin has no choice but getting in the car with this dude, and kind of does it. And he's a bit of an oddball, and it's the same thing with Due Date and things like that. And then all of a sudden I think that there was what was the Jamie Foxx movie with Tom Cruise?
Collateral.
Collateral. So there's a little bit of Collateral in there, but with a serial, like that one seemed to be more of like a what was Collateral about? He was a hitman or something?
Jamie Foxx was, I think, the taxi driver for Tom Cruise's Hitman, right?
Yeah, and he was driving around this hitman. I think there's a little bit of that element in there, that you don't know who you're riding with and what they're up to when they're not around you. And there's certain things you can do that are very subtle with that idea. Like, somebody gets it. There's a murder mystery to it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of cool. You don't realize that you're leaving this like trail of bodies in your wake as you're traveling with this crazy person, and then.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I see now. I see what you're talking about. So it's,
and then at the end
still
of it,
it's still that kind of buddy road flick, quote unquote, but it's one of the dudes is a fucking insane. That is a good Thanksgiving idea.
I think Mitch wins the first round.
I think Mitch wins the first round. I agree. I mean, I'll take the win, because I got the votes, but I'm just saying. Mitch says he's coming home for the holidays, but this year he's not carving a turkey. Oh, damn.
I like that.
Mitch wants to be a guest on Hellevator Pitch in the future.
I think he should. He's good. He's good at that stuff.
Yeah, do it.
So we got about a minute and a half before voting ends here, but I think both ideas have their strengths. I just personally, again, I know I'm not a period piece kind of guy. So I tend to lean towards what I have,
Nobody's on
and you
this
can
period.
dip into the periodness of it with like the past, right? It's called the Pilgrim's Feast, and she would like explain that to everyone. The Pilgrim's Feast was blah blah blah, and it would like throw everyone off. They're like, "What the fuck is she talking about?" Oh shit, 14
50,
votes. We're half
50.
and half again.
50-50.
God damn it, we got a minute left. We need a tiebreaker. But oh shit.
Going to
So
sudden death.
look, this is where we have to battle for ideas, Vince. So if you want to fight for yours, you
Yeah,
feel
I mean, I
free.
think with mine, it's sort of like, for me, it's all about like that, like visceral human decisions, like, and sort of again, like the visceral nature of like shooting somebody with a musket gun and then dealing with like all of a sudden like an entire scene just collapses because of like one shot heard around the world type thing. And that initial thing is like the first act of the movie is like it's all about sort of these people trying to survive and understanding like how brutal it was in the past. And I think that's sort of part of it. And then also like sort of like again like with the final act, you're talking about something that like we would turn into a raid style sequence. So like as these arrows start to rain down on this thing, like guy's about to carve the turkey and an arrow comes through his eye, and then the arrows start to rain down. You're going to go on these long shot sequences where people are running away. There are people running in from the darkness. You're looking at scenes that are all lit by torchlight because of the fire going, and it's at night. So everybody's baked in red, and you see the shadows of things moving, and like again like in 30 Days of Night, and that's why I brought that up too. That sort of like oncoming swarm of people that like if you don't make a decision and there is no moment to rest, there is no moment to breathe. You're staying with these characters. They're running out and they're being brutally murdered. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone survives. And that becomes sort of like the Green Valley Massacre. You think the Green Valley Massacre is the opening of the movie, but the Green Valley Massacre is actually the end of the movie. And Green Valley is named after is actually a pull from Friday the 13th, because I try to put that in there a little bit. Green Valley is what they called is what was formerly Wessex County. When they called it in Part 4, Green Valley is what it's labeled in Part 3 on the wall. It's like Welcome to Green Valley. So I was like, oh, Green Valley is kind of cool. And I don't know. I just thought it was kind of like that sort of like, I don't know. I like the humanizing of it all, and sort of like then getting into the discussion of like watching people have to deal with the consequences even before that sort of big Act 3 finale. It's like, what happens there? Does someone else in the town get killed for going against the leader? Like, is the leader just going to kill anyone who disagrees with them? And sort of the corruption of power. And especially, back in that day, and again, people being powerless. And I think there's just a lot of themes in there that relate to even modern day, where it's like the power of authority, the need for survival. Like, how many of us do what we do because we have to pay our bills versus like it's what we want to do. And so imagine living in the past where like you literally have to follow some sociopath because if you don't, you're going to die. You're going to be out in the wilderness on your own in this new country that you know nothing about. And so it's kind of, I don't know, I think, and then also like just the overall production design of it, which would be really cool, like building a small little native village that these people take over, living in the shell of another community. There's just lots of themes that I think play back and forth on the holiday. And it was like, it ends on Thanksgiving, which I think is kind of cool. Like it starts probably like end of summer, and then you carry through time, and then you end at this sort of like moment where like whatever the resolution they've come to in the town of like, okay, like maybe we did something wrong, but maybe we can do some good. Or even if they like end up putting that dude on trial and killing him at the end of the second act, and they're like, well, we'll stay here and maybe we'll leave in the spring will come, we'll leave in the spring. And they kind of come to this peaceful thing that like they know they did wrong and they're going to move on, but they also all participated because they were fighting for their lives. And in that moment where you think that they've kind of come together, that's when everything sort of kills them. And that's what's poetic about it.
All right. Well, it appears you pulled
Killed
ahead.
it.
Yeah.
You
What?
pulled ahead. It's 16 votes, 56 to 44%. So
Oh, Jesus.
you pulled ahead. You took
Now I gotta make
category
it.
one.
But there's definitely needs to be an honorable mention for Mitch.
Yes,
Mitch
everyone agrees that Mitch's idea was great.
Absolutely.
Mitch is the Ross Perot of this boat.
All right, so we're going to end that poll, and we're going to move on to category number 2, which is the audience's choice.
Oh, we're doing
So-
audience choice now. Okay.
Yeah, audience choices now. So now we need some audience selections. Uh-oh. Is that, that's not showing? Why is it not showing? Wait. Why is it not showing? Hang on, I gotta fix this. But this is the audience choice. So what we need is the audience members to go ahead and comment with your ideas for a horror film pitch you want us to do. So last month, the audience ended up choosing an R-rated Scooby-Doo idea. That was the audience choice. Again, completely really unexpected and completely cool. Really I was like, yes, let's fucking do it. And it ended up being a really fun category. And I ended up killing like killing Shaggy at the end, and Scooby like would just lay by his grave for the rest of his life and shit like that. And
wow, that's dark.
Oh, dude, it got real dark, but it was really intense. It was a fun category. So, audience members, we need you to let us know what we should do. And I am trying to hang on, let me pull up the Hellevator Pitch stuff because I need to get that second episode on here.
Let's see, we got Mimi says at least doll horror or animal horror.
Okay, here we go.
I love how the chat blew up like Ross Perot.
Yeah,
that's probably a pull. Some people are like, "Who the f is Ross Perot?" But hopefully some people remember him. Can I finish?
Can I finish? Okay, I'm finished.
How about planes, trains, automobiles with a serial killer?
Pretty much.
So we got horror Star Wars story.
Oh, that's the wrong. Okay, hang on. I gotta go to hell.
The original Halloween, but it's a Western.
Nice. That's funny.
Yeah.
Dude, you never know what they're gonna select, you know what I mean? Never know.
It's like the man with no name.
Oh, I already saved this. Why the fuck? Okay, hang on. I need to load
Elf
it in.
on the Shelf doll that kills parents and possesses the children to help him do it.
Okay.
Well, it's like Sinister.
Yeah.
Sinister with Elf on a Shelf.
There we go. All right, so I've got part 2 up there. All right, cool. So audience's choice. Let's see what they have given us.
Alright, so we got
An Evil Off on the Shelf, original Halloween, horror Star Wars story. Oh! D&D horror story? Okay.
ooh,
Um...
doll horror movie or an animal horror
Shano Evo. By the way, Shano Evo, are you a reference to Evo Shandor from the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie? Because that was a really funny fucking... Oh, you still haven't seen it? Okay.
No.
It was a funny cameo by J.K. Simmons up in that piece. Did you watch the new Ghostbusters, Vin?
I haven't yet. That's on my. I'm gonna probably go during Thanksgiving break with my family.
It's a great family movie. Okay, cool. Take Three's Company, but turn it into a giallo. Look, I'm not so versed on giallo horror that I can like. You want me to make it like that ballet movie? What was it?
Suspiria?
Yeah. I like the new
Suspiria.
Suspiria.
Yeah,
I thought that was good, but I don't know enough about giallo to be able to do that, Sam.
All right, Sam, that's going to be one of your pitches.
So far, Star Wars horror or D&D horror has my vote. What about you, Ben?
My next pitch has a bit of a Star Warsy type thing in it.
Well, that's creature, so you don't. Okay, so you want to avoid that then? You want to avoid?
Yeah,
Star
no. Even
Wars?
as a creature thing. I mean, I guess it's sort of, it could be anything. But the creature stuff, because I sort of focus on a creature in that world. It started off as a creature in that world, but then it changed. It's actually more of another type of movie now. But I mean, I could work within D&D. I'm not as familiar with, but I know it's Dungeons and Dragons and everything.
That's pretty much as I know too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about quests and things like that. So it'd be sort of like
just sounds like fantasy horror to me.
Yeah, fantasy horror. So it's fantasy horror, sci-fi horror ish, which I would say that like my next thing is kind of in that realm. But I could make I have another version of that that could work.
I'm down to, since you've already got sci-fi handled, I'm down to try and come up with something fantasy themed, a fantasy horror movie.
All right, fantasy horror movie?
Fantasy horror movie. Okay, so let's do that. So here's where Robert's coming in. So Robert is going to be talking to you guys and monitoring the chat while Vince and I take 5 minutes to think of different horror movie ideas. I'm going to remove the headphones and put on my earbuds here, and Vin, you can listen to whatever music you want to listen to as you come up with your idea. But that is what I'm gonna do. I need to hang on, I need to make sure I have a pad and paper to write down my shit.
So unprepared.
Shut the fuck up, Robert. I'll
Holy
kill you.
shit. You're the host.
You son of a bitch, you know that? I was all ready except for this part.
Oh, I know what I'm gonna do.
Oh, well, that's not fair. I'm busy trying to figure out logistics, and you're already thinking of ideas. You cock. All right.
Someone's
Oh my god, this is gonna be so much fun.
Oh, shut the fuck up! That's no fair. No fair.
Seabass.
God damn it! It's such bullshit.
Laugh as he's...
I already knew I was gonna fucking lose. All right, hang on. I gotta pull up the 5-minute volcano timer here. All right, and 5 minutes and go.
Do it to it. It's 150. 155.
So that when that
Yep.
you see, okay.
I got you.
All right, I'm gonna put on some music, fucking fantasy themed.
All right. Howdy do, folks. Howdy do. All right, but yeah, Sam. So going back actually to like the whole mead thing. So Cecil and I have actually a big plan for basically a business meet involving a mead and everything like that. So we got that all coming out. So yeah, we're not trying to talk like too much into it, just because of the whole like.
It's a long process.
It's a long process, and it's a lot of stuff that we want to keep kind of on the hush because it's a huge ass idea, and we're really stoked about it. But definitely we'll be keeping updates and everything on that. But yeah, so what do we got here? Mitch, fantasy horror smoke break for thinking. Yeah, probably. Somewhat dweeb. So we just finished up with the first round of the pitches. So you can actually, if you want, you can actually just kind of rewind on the live stream and rewatch a little bit of that. Right now we are on the audience pitch for the audience pick for the next pitch. So we got Vin and Cecil off doing their thing, coming up with their idea. What else we got? Other than that, how's everybody doing on this fine Sunday evening or afternoon? Oh, you're all set and ready?
I gotta put in some details, but I got sort of like the exciting incident and the overall general feel of it.
All right, there you go.
But this is actually something that as soon as we started thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is something I've had on my mind lately, actually.
Okay, hell yeah. Yeah, you came in and sat down hot and heavy, ready to go.
Yeah, I was like, I also took a 10-1 as on set, which is a bathroom break.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? I should do this now before the coffee runs through me. I'm trying to pitch my next thing, like, okay, I gotta get through this because I really gotta pee.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a smart thing. If you're ever gonna go in and do a pitch, go to the bathroom.
You heard it, folks.
And nice clean conscious while you're pitching.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Cecil's probably down the stairs pacing back and forth.
Trying to, yeah.
Movie Mike. So Mike, who's playing on the football right now? Apparently, he's saying it's a pretty bad football game. Mimi, take a little shot of Grandpa's old cough medicine. It'll take care of that tooth pain. You'll be alright. Put some tussin on it. How you doing? You got 24 seconds left.
Dude, I'm right on target.
All right.
Right on target.
Good job, Mimi. See? You know what's up.
Played a little Lord of the Rings score. Let's get that vibe going. All right. So, Vin, you technically wanted to go first for this round. I think you must have meant you wanted to go first for the monster round, but guess what?
But I will take first on this one too.
Okay.
I feel good. I gotta put my stamp on this one to make sure we don't overlap.
All right. So then, without further ado, let me get the 4-minute timer ready to go, because you got 4 minutes on this one.
Okay.
And all right, in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. The simple title of this movie is called Ogre. And all you have to imagine is that this is Shrek as a horror movie. It opens up on a majestic kingdom, and it's one of the most beautiful places to live in the land. And outside of this beautiful kingdom is a large forest and swamps and all these different things. And living in this kingdom is a prince who is about to marry his princess to be. And the opening procession of his prince coming into sort of traveling to the city on this long winding road that leads to this kingdom. It's not a very good journey for her. As they kind of come into the woods and it starts to get dark, there's something lingering in the forest that is making noise and scaring the horses. And then all of a sudden, this entire procession of knights and noblemen and this princess are attacked and murdered, and no one knows what happens or what does it. There's just bones and blood and nothing left behind. And so this prince sets out on this journey to figure out what killed his princess to be, and they find out that there is an ogre that has taken up residence in their forest and has now claimed it as his own. So he recruits the 5 bravest men in his cavalry to go out and discover this ogre and kill them, and it becomes sort of like the Revenant with Shrek. And so these 5 knights are going through the forest and trying to kill this ogre, which is very sneaky. Even though it's big, it blends into the forest. It knows how to hide in the bog, in the water, in trees, and it attacks them without any warning and rips them to shreds, and they have to keep surviving and fighting this thing until either one of the other takes it out. And I don't think I really need 4 minutes of it, because I think I could. That's basically the movie right there. It's just these knights against an actual ogre trying to survive in the forest. And again, I'll tip my cap to A24. If you can imagine the Green Knight, that sort of production design, again, like Hansel and Gretel, it's very like everything in the forest is this giant. It like everything would be very foggy. The trees would be probably want to film this somewhere in Germany. So you can go into the Black Forest and get very dense forest, mossy woods. You'd film it live action. This wouldn't be like a cartoon version of Shrek. This would be like something you would see from Lord of the Rings, like the ogres that try to eat, or in The Hobbit rather, the hobbits that try to eat them. But I think the design would be something that is like of the earth. These ogres are like sloths. They have moss that like grow on them, and like big giant fists and hands. They're like hulks. And so it would be, I think we'd, just for the sake of it, we would make a green skin just to tip our cap to Shrek. And I would take this project, and not only would I make it, I would put it in only 2 festivals. I would put it in Shriek Fest and Shrek Fest.
Okay.
Do it, and that is my pitch for Ogre.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna stop your timer.
Sam says, "Wow, medieval Victor Crowley."
Yeah, it would definitely have and it have some hatchet type vibes.
Yeah.
So, like as far as like what we would do with once the ogre got its hands on people, it would be about like the visceral like king shark ripping people apart.
Yeah, because it kind of makes me think of like Troll Hunter too.
Yep. There's troll hunters in there.
Yeah.
Cecil's like, stop giving him.
Yeah. What the fuck? Shut the fuck up.
I like the idea. It's really cool. I'm always
Well, all right. Let me talk about mine first, cunt. All right. So, all right. All right. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go. So my idea, I would call it Dragon's Tooth, and the idea is it's not unlike. It is in the era of very similar to The Witch, right? Where it's a time when dragons existed and they were these mythological creatures and you never wanted to run afoul of them, but they were used as boons, beasts of burden by wizards. And so basically the story is about this one town that is haunted by this specter of a dragon that hunts every single night. And so if you're caught outside after darkness, you could easily be plucked up by, you just hear a gust of wind and then your family member disappears. And so it's this town that's completely haunted. They all have to stay indoors at night. No one can go out because this thing swoops in out of the darkness and kills anyone that goes out at night. And what ends up happening is there's a person of lineage, right? This is a fantasy horror movie, so there is a person of lineage that they don't realize they're of lineage. It's this, whether this young female or young male that has just grown up in this village and under the fear of the dragon's tooth, and he discovers that there are spell books that were packed in with him as a baby in his bassinet or his little basket or whatever that he's found in. There's these spell books and he like can make sense of them, and he is intended to be the wizard that breaks the spell, but he never knew, right? So he ends up learning these spells and has this big, like you'd have this big drawn out battle at the end where it's him versus the dragon, but along the way you have all of these elements of a slasher movie, but it's a fucking dragon instead, right? You get someone that's trying to sneak from hut to hut, and like they think they're getting away with it, and they're in the darkness, and you cut to this wide shot of them between huts, just kind of little, and you see this light like sort of take form, and it's this light inside the chest of the dragon as the dragon like pulls the light up its throat, and it just fucking burns this guy that's just trying to cross huts to like fucking do something, help his family member or whatever. And like this dragon just patrols and kills at night, and this one dude with a magic lineage has to learn what he needs to learn in order to free the village from this dragon threat. So it is literally just a creature movie, but it's a fucking dragon that's the bad thing, and there's only one kid that doesn't know what he's doing. But you can go a couple of different ways. You can go Stranger Things, where it's younger kids like learning their lineage and having to fight this big oversized threat, or it's this fucking dude that has had no success in his life. He's like a rundown 30-plus-year-old, and it's because he never realized his potential. He never fucking found the books until right now, and so there's a couple of different ways you could go with it, but the whole idea is that it's a fucking dragon creature movie that has to be overcome. So I don't need my full pitch time either, but I think that's where I would go with a fantasy horror movie. So all right, so that is
dragons and ogres.
Dragons and ogres. So which do you find scarier? So let me go ahead and throw this poll in the chat. Who wins round 2? And that, let's see. What did you call yours, Vin?
Ogre. That's it.
Just ogre. All right.
Oh my god.
And then Cecil is, let's call it the Dragon's Shadow.
Wow, you didn't even have a name?
I like
I
that.
mean, we're making this on the fly. I don't blame you.
I know,
Dragon
I know.
Shadow is
I'm
pretty
just giving
rad.
shit.
That's a pretty rad name, right? I mean, come on.
You're good.
See, it was funny because when you when you mentioned dragon, my head I was thinking like, oh, what? Because as you were saying, like, okay, medieval Dungeons and Dragons, I started like ripping through like all the different characters of like, ooh, who's a good and obviously like dragons was one. I was like, oh man, but I started thinking about like animating dragons, and I was like, ah.
Dude,
Like,
dragons are where it's at, dude. I mean,
I
and
know,
imagine if you use the dragon. There's so many horror tropes that could be exploited with a dragon in different ways. Like imagine the T-Rex scene from the Lost World, but it's the fucking dragon's head in the fucking, and it literally just plucks someone from their sleeping and just fucking kind of gobbles them up inside the tent. You know what I mean? Like, you could go so much farther with it. And I love it. Dragons have been so scary my entire life, and just actually, again, I love Reign of Fire. I think that movie is fucking great. It is so underappreciated. I mean, Christian Bale
that, right?
kicked ass.
Yep.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale. And that made dragons badass. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they're scary. Like, if it was a dragon like that, but it was played like a slasher movie, dude, I am all fucking about it.
That's cool. Yeah, I was thinking for ogre, it was sort of like it almost becomes Predator in ancient times, and it's like that mercenary team of knights with their. I mean, I got like Monty Python in my head. That's a different movie. But yeah, it was sort of that. And again, like, I mean, I'm just using the visual styles that I work with in my movies. Like, I would look at something like The Revenant in the Black Forest, where, you know, and you can set it any time during the year. I think for me, for the simplicity of not freezing to death, I wouldn't do it in the winter. But if you did it in the winter, it'd be kind of cool. Or even if it like took place over several months, where they're trying to track this ogre and things like that. So there's that sense of like, I think in the movie, what's the word, in shaping it, part of it is like going after it, and then the other part is getting away from it, very much like Predator, where you spend a majority of the movie pursuing the beast, dealing with circumstances where you come across it, other things that come across in your path other than the ogre, but mostly like once they face it, they realize that they are not built to deal with this thing, and so they have to get away from it. And it's will they or won't they?
It's a cool idea, but ultimately it is sort of, you know, in what I'm picturing is kind of a lumbering beast. And what you get with mine, again, we have to fight for our own ideas, Vin. So with mine, you can add sort of the elements that Doctor Strange has built, right? Those magic elements where the kid sort of puts together, and he like creates chains on the dragon or whatever, and there's like that big fucking fight at the end that, you know, your horror movie can turn into this badass fantastical fight that still has horror elements, where your main character is losing friends because the dragon's literally like picking them off and like chomping them, like that T-Rex in Jurassic Park eating the lawyer. You can have the fucking dragon reach down and grab your main character's best friend and fucking shake his legs off and shit like that. Like, it's a horror movie, so let's portray, people are scared of dragons in that sense. Let's fucking lean into it. Let's go hardcore evil dragon with it. You know what I mean? Where this is a beast you don't want to fuck with. You don't want to walk in front of it. If you see a dragon attack, you just want to stay as invisible as possible. But this kid has no choice but to fight it, so he's learning these things, and you can see like these chains appear on the dragon with like a big collar on it, but then it kind of like fades. The dragon can break free and knock the kid down, and like there's so much stuff there to chew on for this idea, in my opinion. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think I think they're both cool ideas. I'm like,
I agree. They're both good. I'm fighting for my own.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's the point, and part of it too. I think for the ogre stuff, I think I'm thinking in a world of like Game of Thrones, and you know, sort of like, it's in my head the ogre is like the Hulk. So it's going to be tall. It's going to be probably 12 feet tall. It's going to be thick and massive. I think it would move pretty quick. It could because the Hulk can jump, you know, and it can move long distances. It's got the length and the reach. You got to give the you're gonna give the knight some type of skills. But I think once the Hulk gets his hands on somebody, it's like, or the Hulk, the ogre, it's gonna like smash them. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be very like blunt force trauma, like getting smashed with a log or getting crushed under the hands or just getting popped. You know what I mean? Like squeezed and popped and strangled and trying to get away and outmaneuver this thing. And again, like the Predator trying to run from it, realizing that like all they can do is get back to the kingdom. And I think that not only does the ogre following them all the way back to the kingdom, I think the movie ends with the ogre sitting on the throne. Like fucking Boba Fett at the end of Mandalorian. Like Book of Boba. And the ogre just takes over the whole kingdom and it's like, this is mine now. And man's powerlessness against nature and the supernatural, I think that's kind of a cool like little tale.
Let's be honest, man.
I like that.
It feels like your ogre could be named Ghost Jason. Because that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with the ogre.
I don't know. I like, because a couple weeks ago I thought about it. Like I was like, before the Shrek movies took place, Shrek was definitely in the bog murdering people. Like, it was definitely happening. Like there were skulls on shit. Like it's like he's an ogre. He definitely had to murder people. So before Fiona came along, like, what was Shrek like?
Yeah,
there you go. Well, there is an idea there.
Who is evil Shrek? Like I want to see evil Shrek, the evil ogre.
There is an idea there, but there is an idea there, but I just don't think it's as cool as a murderous slasher dragon. I'm sorry, like.
Oh no, I kind of got some like Conan the Barbarian vibes with the ogre and shit.
You could, yeah. And mine's more.
Especially with the whole sitting on
maybe there's a crossover sequel where the ogre rides the dragon.
Yeah,
I mean, wreak havoc wherever.
I feel like the ogre might be the second battle, the second movie for my main character after he defeats the dragon, right? And it goes out into this world of dangers. Yeah.
Are we making sci-fi movies now?
We could. Let's do it. Fucking dragon versus ogre. What the fuck?
Dragon versus ogre. That would be a good one. I'd watch that.
So we have 11 votes, and I'm technically in the lead by it looks like 1 vote. So I don't know.
As long as they're close. I mean, I think
let's leave it open until 2:15.
Leave it open to 2:15, or call it now, so we each have 1 point. Robert.
Let's make it fair, Cecil.
God damn it!
Yeah, let's even it out.
We'll make it fair. All right, no, we'll make it fair. He says give it till 2:15. So we'll give it 4 more minutes on the vote. We'll see if more people chime in. But again,
how big is your dragon?
So my dragon is legitimately Smaug sized, in my opinion.
Smaug.
Yeah, Smaug sized.
Love that.
Or Rain of Fire, because those dragons weren't small. Like those things were fucking freaky as motherfucker. That if you use a dragon as a slasher, like that shit's gonna scare me. Like you can use it because again, you can have his body positioned on this side of a hut, and someone can think they're sneaking out without him noticing, but his neck can be craned all the way around and be like ready here on this side to literally eat them fresh out of the door without them seeing it. Like there's some really cool fucked up shit you can do with a dragon that's just waiting to fuck with people at night. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I think there's lots of cool things you can do. I mean, a dragon horror movie is definitely something that's like definitely really rad. Again, and like, they already are horror creatures in a way, and every time you see a movie about like a singular dragon, the aspect of that movie 9 times out of 10 is to like voice it with Sean Connery and make it a good dragon.
I love Dragonheart. I do.
The way it exists in a lot of different ways. I think a lot of fantasy elements too. I think the fantasy horror genre is something that doesn't happen a lot. Probably
I agree.
It's really expensive. If anything, it's like that's sort of that. I mean,
The Headhunter might be the most recent great example of it. Did you watch that one?
That movie cost nothing to make.
I know, but it was a great fantasy horror movie.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and that's how you sort of have to do it. You have to figure out how to turn that realm into it, and I think that's an interesting thing. How much? Like, I guess you'd have to do a lot of CG to do the dragon.
Yeah.
Where are elements where like you could pull in some practical, where you could build the head at one point and it'd be a good thing for like, to kind of get like that what's it called, American Werewolf in London type moments where you can bring in the practical element. That's the other thing too with the ogre. I mean, like we're talking about 2 creatures that are probably going to have to be CG at the end of the day, or some actor on stilts. Lots of stunts, lots of effects. So I think that's why if we were both, I mean, honestly, like if we were pitching this at a studio to be like fantasy horror, we're not putting $50 million into this movie.
God, it would do so well though. Like,
what is that?
I think a Dragon one would. I think a Dragon one would. I think it would do
well with horror fans. I wonder with. I mean, obviously, that's always the problem with horror is that like you eliminate that 4-quadrant family sort of $200 million weekend to pay for all those effects, which is why you probably see more stuff like The Headhunter when it comes to fantasy horror, and then like, so you try to figure out ways to sort of bring the idea down, but fantasy is a really hard, unless it's just straight up magic. Like if it's just a sorcerer, or if it's just a knight, or if it's just something of like somebody back then, like a barbarian or something like that, still set in that time. But to bring in those super fantasy elements, it's always, I think that's one thing that it has to be a conscious thing when you're pitching too. It's like, you know, we can, like right now it's pie in the sky. We can do anything we want. We can say anything we want. It doesn't cost us anything to come up with ideas. And then part of the pitching process when you do it professionally, you have to think about like, is everything I'm saying something that an executive is going to hear and go, oh, we can afford that, or we can build that? Because those are the first questions you get, or like, how are you going to afford to build this? Or how, you know, what type of production or what type of budget do you think this is going to be? And, you know, for those out there who are writing and pitching to studios, that's something to think about. You know, even if you're coming like, this is like my spec script, it's like, I put everything out there. And even when I write now, there's some things that I go like, oh, I know I could never film this. Because they would never give me this money now. Like if I was Steven Spielberg, yeah, they'd give me the money to go do this. But like if they can't do that, then maybe I need to write that is more in that realm. And that's sort of been my challenge as a filmmaker in the last couple of years, is sort of to like come up with like really simple stories that, you know, the single locations, the, you know, the small character counts, you know, the finding ways to expand scope, you know, like Never Hike Alone, like finding ways to expand scope without having the money to do it, and finding, you know, interesting ways. So it's that doesn't count for this, because we can do whatever we want right now, because as far as like this contest is concerned, like we're both Steven Spielberg and James Cameron being like, I'm going to have 13 years and $10 billion to make Avatar 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, really.
So we can do whatever we want, which is really cool. I think it's just like a cool subject to sort of bring up as far as like the realism of being in a pitch room and being like, hey, Dragon, you just have a bunch of executives over at HBO going like, let me tell you about dragons, fucking animated dragons.
All right, well,
closing it out.
16 votes. Once again, the exact same, 56% to 44%. So Vince wins by 2 votes once again. So
I thought I was.
You guys are
fucking.
This is fucking bullshit. Like, yeah, there's no way that the Dragon one shouldn't have won that. So
Cecil is like, God damn it, why did I create this show?
I knew exactly what would happen. I knew everyone, just to fuck with me, would never let me win. So it's just playing out exactly how I fucking saw it would happen.
I think it's cool, Cecil.
Like, it's... all right, it's cool. Like, I'm not taking away from the ogre idea, but sorry, the dragon idea is...
People love Shrek. Don't you understand this?
Whatever.
I was going...
All right.
Instant. They were like Shrek on them.
I'm never going to fucking win my own show.
And Mike Myers is still his voice.
It's just a joke. All right, well, let's go into fucking pitch number 3 and see that Vin's going to win again on this one. So, all right, because he's been waiting to do his fucking monster movie pitch, even though I'm the fucking monster movie guy. I love creature movies. I'm still going to lose this category because my audience likes to fuck with me. All right, so we have to do a coin flip to see who goes first on this one.
Where's your coin?
Once again. So you chose last time. I'll choose this one. I'm going to choose blue. And it's red. So, of course. What do you want to do, Vin?
Let me see. I'll lead this one off. I'm really excited about this one because it taps into actual fears that I have, like recurring nightmares. So we'll go into it.
All right. Well, let me give you your second point, because now it doesn't matter what happens with this one. You've already won the episode, so... Fucking audience members don't even know how to make it dramatic for dramatic purposes. They're just like, fucking Vince wins. Show's over. Just end it. You don't need to do the third pitch. Vince wins. Fuck Cecil.
And I actually have an idea for I have an idea for you for the next one on how you could do the audience pitch is sort of like as a way to sort of roll it in where you might not even have to take time off to do the pitch.
I like kind of having to do that though. It's kind of I mean it's a different thing, but we'll talk about it.
We'll
still
need time to do it, but I have an idea. We'll do. I'll pitch it to you after we do the third pitch.
Okay. All right. Somewhat dweeb says it's all in good fun, Cecil. Of course it is. It's good fun for all of you to see me fucking get pissed.
And then I have to deal with the aftermath.
That's right.
Yeah.
Try and
once
it
cuts.
Yeah, exactly. He beats me in the corner.
Yeah, don't worry.
He's gonna smack you upside the head with the
Robert's gonna appear with a black eye in the next video. Don't worry.
No, that's what we have. That's why we have Susie. She's
Susie girl. Covers it up exactly. All right, so pitch number 3. Let me switch the pitches on the picture here. So this is the pre-prepared pitch.
Okay. Yes.
So, in my episode versus Dave McCrae, we decided to come up with our own new slasher movie, and Vince, we decided to do our own monster movie. Vince is going to go first. Vince, you get 5 whole minutes to pitch this one. So, let me pull it up. And in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. The title of this movie is just simply called Caves. And it is designed around my incredible fear and reoccurring nightmare of, have you ever in your dreams been crawling through a very tight space? No, and that space starts to collapse on you.
I hate the idea. I'm being as big as I am, dude. I'm so claustrophobic. Yeah.
So I have that reoccurring dream, and so it's something that sort of kind of got to me. And when I started to think about this concept of this, it really kind of there. So this would be a sci-fi first person, and I'm not a big first person, but this works as a first person because it always puts you in this perspective of this survival film about a group of rebels. Think about like Rogue One, and they're escaping from a larger entity. And in the process of their escape, they crash land on a planet that's uncharted and they know nothing about. And they have these bounty hunters and intergalactic bad people coming after them. And they have no choice but to escape into the security of the caves that inhabit this planet. Unfortunately for them, these caves are inhabited by these mutant worms that dig through like tremors or like a smaller version of Shai Hulud from Dune. And as they're in these caves in this shifting planet, as caves are collapsing and opening, it's opening up these vents for these worms that will also crawl through. And there's like if you crossed a worm with a snake, where like the worm would come up, it would have sort of that look to it, maybe some eyes like an arachnid, so it would have eyes on every single lip, and it would open up like the mouth of a face hugger. So on every single lip of that face hugger, there are black eyes that would see you with and could sense you and do that. So this group of survivors that have these basically plans to the Death Star that they are trying to get to their rebel base need to survive this cave system and get out back to the surface and find a way to get off this planet before either the intergalactic bounty hunters or these fucking worm things devour them. And the whole thing is in first person, so you're in their spacesuits. They're not allowed to take off their helmets. The oxygen, or not the oxygen, but the atmosphere of this planet is not breathable for them. So everything that you see is basically in their heads-up display. And you can cut between each of the characters as they're trying to work their way through this system, but everything you see is first person. So as you're like in your dreams, you have that first person crawling through it. You see the cave starting to collapse and they're trying to get out. And some characters are going to get crushed by the caves or crushed by falling rocks. And other times they're going to turn around and you're going to see this worm thing just come in after the thing. And that sense of like being like, it reminds me of like the first time I played Resident Evil 3 when the Nemesis, like it was the first time in a video game where like you would run off the screen and then the thing could actually follow you into the next screen. Because prior to that in video games, like if you went back like a screen, the bad guy couldn't come back and you could sort of collect yourself and then go back into that screen and fight it. And so it's sort of like that. They're always nipping at the heels, always kind of doing that, having that Tremors type of vibe where they have to be quiet or they have to get into open crevices where the worms really can't crawl. If they're more susceptible to gunfire and being watered off in open areas. So if they get into an open like fissure, or if they get into an open cavern, the worms have to come out of their holes where they are really OP'd. Now they're out in the open and you can shoot them and they'll kind of escape back into holes and not want to get hit. So this group of survivors just basically like being terrorized by collapsing tunnels, worms, and these other people that are trying to get them, who are also being attacked by the worms. And you'd always see it from their point of view, which I think is cool. Like, I'm not a big proponent of found footage or first person type films like this, but I think in this sense, putting the audience in the perspective of these characters and constantly making them live this like nightmare, which makes me like cringe every time I think about it. Like, I get goosebumps up my spine, just like, oh, I like hate the tunnel keeps getting smaller and smaller and you can't get through and you get stuck, and that feeling of helplessness and like not being able to go backwards. So I think ultimately that not only do I think that like this was a cool pitch for this isn't a movie that I actually want to make now. Like, I was like, it totally freaks me out. And if it does that, I know that's starting in a good place. And that's my pitch for Caves.
All right, so he had about 30 seconds left on his timer. So Caves is his, and let's go with mine in 3, 2, 1, go. So my movie is called See Spot Kill. So basically the idea is one day a rock lands in suburban America from outer space, and it's a sizable rock, but out from it crawls a quadrupedal alien creature that immediately takes shelter and is hiding but observing, right? It's a very intelligent being, and it's observing, and what it sees is humans walking with their pets, and they go home and the pets go in the home with them. So what this creature does is, the first night, it follows this man and this out walking his dog, takes it home, and the man goes into the home, takes the dog with it, and then the creature shapeshifts into that specific dog, a facsimile of that dog, and goes in through the doggy door and basically goes in and kills the family dog, who immediately starts barking at it, right? Kills it, and then because it's assumed the form of the family dog, it gets close to the other family members and kills them all and eats a part of the inside. I'm not sure what body part specifically, but this alien comes and it eats a part of us on the inside. So what it does is it then starts this massacre where this animal goes from household to household, mimicking the family pet, going in, killing the family pet, but in a way where it's not overly crazy, right? Then it kills and eats the family and leaves the family pet's body there because it looks like the family has been killed by the family pet. And so it leaves the family pet's body behind. So it's all kind of, it doesn't make sense, but this creature keeps shape-shifting into a new pet for every new household. And the idea is that one household, there's a family member that's not there. So the family member comes back just after the attack happens and sees this alien in the form of its pet run off, and then walks into the house and sees their family pet also dead there on the floor amongst the chaos of their whole family being killed. So this family member then follows the pet that it saw run off and sees that it shapeshifts into the form of another pet before going into another house. And so this particular family member has to figure out exactly what's happening, unravel the mystery, realize that this is a creature that shapeshifts and is killing families all along this neighborhood, meanwhile implicating the family pets. And there could be cool scenes, like at one point, the family pet, like after the first kill, the first night, right, it goes into the backyard, and we do this. It's funny, you brought up earlier the 30 Days of Night sort of shot, right, kind of thing, or something like that came up, where we show the 30 Days of Night where it goes over the neighborhood as you see all the neighborhood dogs barking because they know something's fucked up. They're all barking uncontrollably. And then you hear the alien dog let out this heinous roar, right? Like, roar! Like, and it shuts all the dogs up, and then it continues to do it until the roar changes into a really deep bark. So the alien's trying to assimilate and get on to the level of the other dogs to be another, like, even more tricky than it was. And so basically this alien creature mimics family pets, goes in and kills the family, and moves on to the next household. And it's up to this one family member that happened to not be home for the massacre to figure it out and stop this creature before it moves on to a whole new area, a whole new state, whole new neighborhood. And I think I'll call my pitch right there.
Cool. Yeah, you got good time left too.
So yeah, about a minute left. You had 30 seconds left. I had 60 seconds left. So
nice.
Those are the 2 creature movie pitches. So let's go ahead and throw these in the chat. So who wins round number 3? We have Vince's. What did you call yours again?
Caves.
Caves, right.
I like how Ben is like, a dream is a wish your heart makes. I hope my heart does not wish for me to get stuck in a claustrophobic tunnel underground.
Yeah.
Fuck.
All right.
Oh,
so
God, that gives me...
Vince's Caves and Cecil's C-Spot Kill. So, all right. That is the...
Dogs are decent people.
Dogs are decent people. Yeah, I know. I'm going to trigger some people. Like, I mentioned the idea to Robert, and he's just like, "Oh, I don't like the idea of puppers dying, but okay, it is what it is." And it's like, well, that's the pitch. That's the idea. So,
well, in the theme of borrowing from the Disney brand, that seems to be what we've been doing, or from that world, it actually reminded me like a horror movie version of Lilo and Stitch.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind
I
of.
love the concept of taking these like kids' stories and like just, but what if?
Well, here's the thing.
In a world of horror.
I have an entirely different idea that I couldn't justify making this pitch because it's the first of a 4-movie idea for myself, where it's basically a horror creature version of Lassie, where this creature lands from outer space in its infantile form, and a young boy finds it and befriends it, and as it grows, it like is defending of the boy, but it's a horrific creature. So the boy's bullied, the creature goes and kills the bullies. It gets way more attention than it needs to, and the whole town comes down on it, but the creature is armored, so no one can kill it. The only one that can get close enough to the creature to kill it is the boy that raised it. So like Lassie, the boy has to get in close and fucking kill the thing in order to stop its rampage. So like I had that whole idea, but I'm like, I can't do that because that's a whole pre-thought out idea, and it's part 1 of like a 4-part, Avengers of creature movie ideas that I have, but nonetheless, C-Spot Kill is still a cool enough idea where it's almost like The Thing, and it just is assuming the form of every new pet and leaving the pet's body behind because it's smart enough to know to do that. And like it's just like, imagine, it almost goes back to a Garfield comic I had as a kid, where it was like these 9 horrific Garfield tales where they did like 9 horror tales around different Garfield type stories, and one of them was this cat that went crazy and attacked its old lady owner. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if this was a creature that acted like the family pet, but then you had all these moments where they trust their family pet, and their family pet comes up and rips their own throat out and shit. You could have a lot of really fucking cool scenes with that in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, anytime the dog turns on you, it can be scary. And I like that. It's like I said, like the concept of like this thing sort of landing here and working its way around and trying to, it's scary. It's scary.
So far we've got 14 votes. Our last 2 polls ended at 16, and at 14 votes, I'm at 64% to 36%. So
we got 23
I might win this last category.
Oh, nice. I still want to make it even if I lose this round.
We got 23 people in the chat. Come on, guys, 3 votes.
Oh, we got 23 people. Wow,
yeah,
that's like
originally when I was putting together like the idea for this, it started with them being on a planet full of like Wampa creatures, because it was like sort of like Star Wars thing, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool, like the Wampa like murdering people and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I sort of remembered my nightmares and being like, oh, if you're gonna do like a first person narrative, you want to do it in, like, I think like good found footage movies are like as above so below.
That's
Like
a good one.
the thing that works really well about As Above, So Below, and why I sort of like was mirroring it for this, was the fact that like they cheat by giving them like headlamps that also have cameras in them, which it.
Dude, it's just like all those movies where there are scuba divers that can talk to each other, and yet they're not in masks that can allow that.
But I thought that was it, like what I thought about what that movie did well is that because it gave every character a camera without having them to carry a camera, it made it like really interesting. Again, because it's the future and you put them in spacesuits and you get that sort of like, in my head, it's like almost like interstellar suits where, you know, you got like the headpiece on and they're pretty like form fitting and they'll have their gear and things like that. I think you can do cool things with like future technology, you know, with them trying to get through the caves. Like it's not like a modern day story where you have, you know, we're limited to what we have and what our astronauts would have, which is very limited when they go to space, that these would be like adept space travelers that travel from planet to planet. So they do have some tools up their sleeve, but I also thought, you know, when I was thinking about like, well, if they go into caves, you wouldn't have wampas running around in caves. And then I started to think about Tremors, which is another like.
I love.
You're
Tremors.
a big Tremors fan, right?
Love Tremors.
That's why
we actually have. So Vin, so part of our plan, I told Vin, just so you guys know, I'm going to be coming out to LA to go over the shot list for Dylan's New Nightmare with Vin and a couple of other people. And one of the things, I'm bringing Robert along with me because we're going to stop in California at the place where they shot Tremors, because we want to, we have I wrote a script for a Tremors short film that we would film for a music video, or for a song that came out a couple of years back that told a story from the Graboids' perspective. So we literally have a Tremors music video in the works. We love it so much. Not to interrupt you, but yeah, that's how much we love it.
No, yeah. And so that's sort of like, and I started to think about, it's kind of the cool thing. You can get away with, you know, you don't always have to see them. All you have to see is their face, or you know, you look over and you see them sort of like pass through another tunnel. There are lots of interesting ways that could be. You can create a lot of really scary sequences because you don't know where they are. I think there's a little bit of like alien isolation in there. You know, having to deal with like the sensory around you when you're in the theater experience, like having that 18, or I can't remember what they do, like 50 million point one surround sound that they have in a theater, like, or even if you have like stereo or home video surround, like using that to its advantage to create that sense. Just the ambience of like, you hear the shifting rocks, you know things are going to happen, so you go into different people's point of view, seeing, you know, you could even have one person where it like gets attacked in the face, like, and you see their point of view before their skull crushes, and before the camera gets crushed, you're actually going to go down like the belly of the worm a little bit, which is another kind of cool piece of it, and having to deal with it, then cutting to another, like again, like As Above, So Below, being able to then cut to another character's perspective who's watching it. And what's cool from a cinematography standpoint is when you do that, you can get creative in the way that you frame. And that's what I loved about As Above, So Below, is like there were moments where they were framing dialogue scenes like traditional narrative, but they were doing it in a natural way where characters were coming in and becoming like the over to another character because they chose to stand in a certain spot to watch the conversation. So I was like, oh, it wouldn't be complete found footage like a Paranormal Activity where it's like one camera set up in a corner for 3 hours, or something like Dash Cam. Like
you know what a movie hasn't done yet that I think you present the opportunity to do. It's something that, believe it or not, Jaws 3 has done better than a lot of movies out there. So when the hunter goes down and tries to lure the great white into the cage and ends up getting eaten by the great white with the grenade in his hand, which is the grenade that blows up the shark at the end of the movie, that scene when the guy gets pulled into the shark's mouth and you see the shark's mouth like closing on him in it, like that's the thing that we like, the perspective of someone getting chomped on by a giant creature, in your case a giant worm, going down the gullet and maybe ending up in the digestive juices and melting in acid like fashion when you get there. Like, that whole process has yet to be put to film. And I think in your movie, you have that prime opportunity, especially if you have that found footage thing where the camera's on the hook, where you get to see, like, this is why you don't ever want to be eaten. Because not only do you see the teeth coming down and like chomping you, and then you go down the gullet, like, let's go down the gullet into the stomach of this giant creature. Because technically, if you get swallowed whole, you're not dead. You're going to be experiencing that in this way. And it is fucking horrific. And no one's ever done that. No one's ever done that.
There's also an opportunity in this. It's not just one, it's not just one worm. It's going to be a lot of worms. So like somebody could get swallowed and they could be saved. There could be a scene where like they do that in Tremor, and they start to cut it open. 3, Burt Gummer is eaten and they cut him out of it. Well, no, but now get that first person view where like in one person they're cutting and then you can go into the thing where it like opens back up.
Yeah.
But like in an alien type way, that stomach acid could start to eat through their suit, and then you see what happens when like it could be like the original
The Fly, Total Recall almost, or Total okay, where
he's like the atmosphere gets into their suit and then they die that way.
No, it'd almost be more like The Fly,
so where
they get hit with the acid and they just melt. Right in the stomach acid kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. There's that. There's that part. But like you just imagine like that speck gets onto like the glass and it starts to like get into, and they're like, oh fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that part of it, and they start to like expand and their eyeballs pop.
Dude, honestly,
like my favorite part of Total Recall.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the idea of being eaten, right? One of my oldest things that scared the hell out of me, and again, as implausible and as silly as this sounds, my worst fear is if I was ever out in the ocean and everyone decides to go swimming and I dive off the boat right as a shark comes up and I literally dive into the mouth of a shark so that like I'm fully alive, I'm not pulverized by the teeth, and I just get slowly digested and run out and like suffocate inside the body of a shark. Like, that shit scares the fuck out of me. And that could easily happen when you're talking about a smaller Shai-Hulud, right? That's gonna fucking digest you and you have no choice but to experience the whole thing.
You're diving into a sarlacc pit.
Right, exactly. One that you survive though. You don't get. I mean, the sarlacc pit. How's that going to chew you anyway? I mean, all the teeth are on the side, and it's just like. But nonetheless, I get it. Yeah.
Version of the sarlacc.
Well, I think that's how it closed out.
Yeah, I think okay.
Sarlacc, which looks like the planet's butthole.
So after 17 votes, we got one more vote this round than the past 2 rounds. Cecil takes it with 59% to 41%. So nice. I win round 3, but that is too little, too late. Too late. I already complained like a little biatch, but that's okay. I figured it would happen. But Vin, honestly, it's a good game, and it's always fun to talk creativity and ideas, and that's why we had or that's why I was hoping to have you on, because I knew you have a plethora of ideas. So. Thank you very much for joining me for this. Yeah.
And it was good. It was a good Sarlacc Hulud. That's funny. It was a good exercise, because it's sort of like when you have to pitch, and like even if none of these are really going anywhere right now, but like it gets your creative juices flowing. And if you're always pitching and you're always working on it, you're working on your presentation, you're learning how to condense the information. Like a lot of tricks, it's like you say like, oh, it's like, like the first movie, it's The Witch meets The Revenant. You know what I mean? It's this meets that. And then you can kind of like, what you want to do is shape for an executive in as little time as possible a complete version of the movie of what they're going to get. So they know in their head isn't like, oh, what's going to make a really good story? In their head, the only thing they're thinking about is can I sell this? And will it make money? And so when you name 2 other films that are well known and will get people interested, that sort of helps you kind of get in there. And then other than that, it's just about sort of like what's the variety of the film, what's the pull of the film, what are we going to get out of it, what's the audience going to get out of it, and then how can it be made? And if you can answer those questions, you can at least get your foot in the door. And even if they don't pick up that one, they know that you at least know how to put ideas together, and they'll bring you back for more.
Well, and let's be 100% transparent here, at least on my side of things. The way I look at things is you have been working on prying open that fucking Hollywood door from a fan's perspective for years, And Dave, our Dave McCrae, who is going to be playing our Freddy in Dylan's New Nightmare, he made, of course, It's Me, Billy. And that, even though the views on that are minimal compared to, you know, a lot of other fan films out there, specifically Never Hike and stuff, they got enough attention where I am surmising based on cryptic things that Dave has posted. I'm not operating from any deep knowledge that no one else has, but surmising from what Dave said is they have gotten the ability to pitch an idea to a studio because of It's Me, Billy. And there's no reason why Dylan's New Nightmare couldn't afford us the same things again. After all this time, the fact that the Freddy rights are still with the Craven estate and no one's done anything with it, if we come out and are like, we have a solid idea and we show what we can do, and then they're like, hey, come and pitch an idea, that's not outside the realm of possibility. So, you know, doing all of this and putting as much attention to it as we are and trying to make it as high quality as we know it can be, hopefully it's going to put us in the position to utilize these skills that we are demonstrating here on Hellevator Pitch, where we can go in and have maybe 2 to 3 different Freddy ideas to pitch if we get to that point. So, like, this is all stuff that Matt, like Vin, I'm sure has a Jason pitch on deck at all times, you know, in case he gets in front of people. And that's the importance of just sort of, this is almost what you might consider basketball practice for someone in the NBA, right? It's kind of what we're trying to do.
And if you ever want to be a writer, you're doing this every single day. You're in a writer's room, putting together an episode of television, or putting together a film, working with a director, working with, you know, other members of the team. And that's where I was taught how to pitch. I was taught to pitch on animated films. Like, every day we would get together, we needed to do a new scene. And so at the beginning of the scene, you have nothing. So people are just saying, like, okay, in this scene, what do the characters want? What are we trying to do? What is the scene about? Oh, this could happen and that could happen. And what's really great about those instances is that you have 4 or 5 people to, like, riff ideas off. So someone comes up with an idea, somebody runs with the ball, and then somebody goes, well, wait, what if we did it this way? But that could still work. And so there's a lot of, like, melding of minds.
Those rooms. Oh my
and
God.
those that's probably, like, the most fun you have. And it, again, like, at that point, it's all pie in the sky. And then you have to put, you know, the pencil to paper. You have to get the script pages written. You got to see what it looks when it's storyboarded. You got to see how it actually plays out on screen. And so when you hear, you know, even when, like, you know, I think recently, like, Doctor Strange went in for more extensive reshoots. You know, those reshoots come out of meetings like this, where they've watched it and said, you know what, we could do this, we could do that. And that's where it really is. It's all about that sense of, like, how can we make this as good as possible? And your pitch is really only the starter point. Same as a script. Like, your script is only a starting point for what the film is going to be. And so the better you get on being able to think on your feet and say, like, oh, that is a great idea. So let's take that idea and let's run with it. And this is how it plays out. But this is how it affects all the other things in the movie that are related to it. And being able to track those things in your mind. You know, being good at pitching is sort of like the foundation of everything that you want to do in film, because it's storytelling. In fact, what we're doing right now, this was movies back before there were books, before there was film, before there was any type of context. The art of pitching and storytelling is where it all comes from. It's auditory storytelling, acting things out before there were plays and things like that. And that's one of the things, like honestly, as much as I love making movies, I honestly feel like pitching and storytelling is, like, the heart of it.
It's like a more pure form of it, right?
It's the purest form of it. It's the isolated thing. It's just the story coming there, and everything else that comes from storytelling is just, it's a presentation.
It all comes from a fucking great idea. That's what I love about it. And that's, honestly, that's where the line can be between good movie and bad movie so much in Hollywood. It all comes down to the script and the base idea. And, like, when you get genuinely new ideas, again, back in the late 90s, The Matrix, genuinely new idea, fucking set the world afire, not only with its idea as a script, but with its technological advancements. And, like, dude, there's just sometimes ideas come along where you're just like, that's a fucking brilliant idea. Like Ex Machina, great idea. Like, there's a lot of things that are just great ideas that just need good execution. And it's fun to have it in this base form. Again, like, I'll tell you what, as dumb as it sounds, one of the movies that made me want to make movies, or at least come up with ideas and screenwriting, was What Women Want growing up. Because I was like, oh my God, you mean there's a job out there where I can just come up with ideas for shit and be paid for it? And it's like, yeah, that's called screenwriting. You know, like, if you do it well enough and you get in the right circles, you can do that. And I'm like, well, shit, I have no shortage of ideas. Like, give me a starting point and I'll come up with an idea. And so I love this. I love pitching. I love coming up with ideas on the fly. I honestly think after just 2 episodes, I can already tell that the audience choice is my favorite part of this show, because it's the most pure form of, they give us an idea, we take 5 minutes and come up with the best thing we can in that 5 minutes. And that's legitimately the purest form of story creation. You know what I mean? Uh-oh, did we lose him? Oh, no.
Oh.
We lost him at the very end here. Oh, okay, he's getting back in touch with me. Hang on, I got him.
Hold on.
I lost you at such a pivotal moment.
Ooh, I don't know what happened.
I blew your mind. I blew your computer's mind. Anyway, yeah. So no, again, this is, I think, the purest form of, you know, film storytelling.
Yeah, and honestly, like, this will happen to you in a pitch. Like, where all of a sudden, like, you came in to pitch your werewolf movie, and you're like, and that's the pitch. They're like, that's great. You know what? We're not really doing werewolf stuff right now, but we want to do something with worms. You got anything with worms? And you have to on the spot be like, all right, what's the fucking worm horror movie? And they will throw something at you because they may have purchased a script. They may have done something, and they're bringing in, and they want to see if you have ideas. There's something you can get from you. But most of the thing about a pitch, it's not about what you're pitching. It's about who's pitching it. And they want to know about you. They want to know what your sensibilities are. They want to see, you know, how you deal when you're put under pressure, how do you think on your feet and things like that. So a lot of people may go into a room and feel bad, like, well, they didn't buy my movie. Well, they may not have bought your movie, but if they like you, they may be calling you back for something else, because when that script that they actually do want to make comes in, maybe they want to put your voice on it. Maybe they want you to direct it. Maybe they want you to consult on it or do a rewrite on it, because you have a knack for telling a specific kind of story. And that's really what I love about storytelling. And obviously, like, I don't know, I think for me, when I have a chance to be in front of people, too, like, this is different. Like, pitching, this is what pitching's become now today, because we pitch on Zoom and we have to do it. It's a little harder than being in a room with people that you can get reactions out of, that you can make eye contact with, that you can connect with, and you see somebody who's getting it. So you kind of like push towards them and pitch to them and try to get other people in the same place that they are. There's really a nuance to it. And, you know, I've had to stand in front of, you know, other filmmakers. I've had to stand in front of people doing, you know, running studios and be like, this is my idea. You know, speaking of Dave and sort of like the opportunities that have been afforded to him through Billy's, it's like, that's what Never Hike Alone did. It opened up a few doors. I ended up in some rooms that I couldn't get into before, and was able to pitch ideas and present myself. And I've created, you know, relationships with people that have taken time to sort of be like, hey, keep me in mind for things. And when I have something, I'm going to pitch it to you. And, you know, at the same time, being lucky enough to have the fans back me, where I don't need to pitch to anybody. The only people I really need to pitch to are fans, because the fans are the ones funding what we do. And if they're the ones who are going to give me a direct avenue to like making something versus having to go through a studio and wait for the studio system to give me approval on things, like, I'll take the direct result, even if it's not as much money. Like, at least I have creative control. But again, if I don't come out with Never Hike Alone and pitch it to people in a way that makes them want to get behind it, you know, a lot of people say, like, well, if you just put a hockey mask on something, people are going to show up. Yes, that's true to a certain degree. But I think we've now seen over the course of the last couple of years, like, not every Friday the 13th fan film gets funded. And those that do, not all of them get as much funding. You know, you still have to pitch an idea, and you still have to present an idea to people that they go, I get it. And I also trust that you're going to execute what you say you're going to do. And so that's really the big difference. And so for, you know, when you have these films that we've done, you know, fan films, and when Dylan's New Nightmare comes out, what it becomes is a calling card. It says, hey, we have an idea. We pitched to people. They believed in us enough that they gave us money to make it. Now we've made it and we've executed it at a level that when you watch it, you can determine to say, oh, they are competent and can make things professionally, or, oh, this isn't quite there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always, and as filmmakers, that's always our mission. And, you know, if we were lucky enough, or like we put in the hard work to do, you know, Never Hike as best we could, and resulted in good things. And a lot of the people that we've worked with have been able to make projects that have gotten them attention that they rightfully deserve because they put in the hard work. And even though with all the success that we've had, that we haven't made something that's like been professionally done yet, I also know that it's a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that even if you do something, for anybody out there that say there's a crowdfund that doesn't go through, or there's a project that doesn't finish, like that's just then. You still have another chance to get back up and try it again. You still have another chance to go back in and pitch. Like even if you have the worst pitch, like I've read some horror stories about people going in and pitching and doing like the worst job. Like somebody I read on Twitter the other day, like they went in to pitch a baseball movie. They went in a full baseball costume on Halloween, and they pitched to a room full of executives in suits.
Oh, oops.
And at the end of the thing, they were like, why are you dressed like a baseball player? And they're like, oh, it's my Halloween costume, and I thought it would help the pitch. It's like, yeah, that room may have hated it, but there may have been another company that person went to on another day that everybody would have been in costume for his pitch, and they would have got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so always think about that when you're pitching, that like, even if it's not the right room, it's just like a comedian. A comedian goes in, they do their bit, and they bomb. The next night, they do the same exact bit. Everyone's rolling on the floor. You just got to kind of roll with the punches and realize that sometimes you're going to win a round and sometimes you're going to lose a round. But as long as you keep pitching and coming up with new ideas, eventually something will catch, and you'll find yourself being able to make the movie that you want to make.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why I wanted to have Vin on the program, because of that sort of insight directly from the inside of Hollywood, which Vin's been doing his own thing. That's the nice thing. And he's also been on the inner gears of Hollywood, working on various shows and what have you. So he's seen this business from various different perspectives. So I was very appreciative that you were willing to come on and do this with me. So I think your win is well deserved. You put the time in and thought about the pitches, and I greatly appreciate it. And thank you very much for joining us, Vin.
Well, thank you, Cecil. Always a pleasure, and you know I'm always down to hang.
I do appreciate that, and we will be in touch regarding Dylan's New Nightmare in the very near future. Thank you to all of our audience for watching. Thank you to Robert for moderating the chat along the way. And so I am 0 for 2, but that's okay. I am happy to make Hellevator Pitch a thing that spotlights my guests and their creative ability all along the way. That's perfectly fine with me. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you appreciated the video, click the like button and subscribe. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel directly the way that you do. We greatly appreciate it. And the link to Vince's channel, Womp Stomp Films, is in the description box down below. So make sure you go and subscribe to Vince so you can keep up on all of his projects, including things like Jason versus the Wolfman, which we had no fucking idea was even happening until after it dropped.
Dude,
So
I love that.
Well, I will
Dude,
just say that
awesome.
it's just sort of like, it was a fun trailer that we made with the guys at Hawthorne House Films. It was an idea that we came up with a few years ago called Fright Fights, where we were going to take like modern horror people and then pair them with like ancient horror people of like, you know, the golden age of horror. And that footage is all like 2 years old, and we never finished it because there were certain things that like we sort of never got done. And then I asked to revisit the footage. I said, hey, you know, whatever happened to that stuff? Because I always thought it looked pretty good. It just needed to be cleaned up and finished. And we looked at it this year and we were like, hey, it wasn't as bad as we remembered. I think we had a high expectations and certain things there. And plus other things got in the way. And I was like, let's just do this for fun. Let's just make this, a fun teaser that we can release on Halloween. We can celebrate Halloween with it. It's just an idea. And we'll see what people say. We may do more of those, more trailers, and just kind of come up with it, because I think it's, for that idea, I think that's a better avenue to go rather than trying to produce a whole film like that, which would be, you know, a lot of labor. It's like, how much labor do we want to put in that for another sort of like fan film thing? And one thing before we do, I would like to plug, we just finished up the Ghost Cut campaign, which is helping supply us with some funding for Never Hike Alone 2, which we will run another campaign for in March. So anyone anticipating Never Hike Alone 2, that is coming up next year. Our plan is to do all 3 of the next episodes episodes as one feature film, the original way we intended to make it in the first place before we decided to break it up. And then, of course, COVID screwed all that up. But the Ghost Cut campaign is still open in demand. You can still grab copies of the Ghost Cut, which is all 3 of our films cut into one timeline with bonus footage. But then we also have a new version of Never Hike in the Snow with brand new artwork, and the second edition Never Hike Alone, which people still love and want to add to their collections. That Indiegogo is still up and running and will be up and running till the end of the year. All proceeds are going towards the base funding of Never Hike Alone 2, and you'll help us get some pre-production things like building our new Ghost Jason costumes. So any support that you guys want to throw that way is greatly appreciated, and we hope you, if anything, grab the link and spread it around and share it with your friends and family.
What were you calling that thing? Fright Fights? Did you say?
Fright Fights.
Fright
So
Fights.
it's going to be like Freddy versus Dracula.
Sure.
The
No,
Mummy
I get it.
Versus
I know you wanted
Texas Chainsaw.
more recent versus old, but look, I mean, when we film, you might be in a position to film a more contemporary Fright Fights between Ghost Jason and someone else, is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's also a whole $50 million movie that was made with that premise.
It's
That had
okay.
a dopey Jason wandering around being scared of water.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All stuff to consider, but thank you very much to Vince for joining. Thank you again to Robert for moderating, and thank you to all of you audience members for not only watching but participating. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next month. My next foe is Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards. So
nice.
the Scottish Wonder is going to be coming down, and we'll see if his accent holds him back. If I can finally win one based on a technicality, because people just can't fucking understand my opponent.
I mean, he's not a pikey.
But he still gets comments all the time.
I know, I
saying
see that
he
all the
doesn't
time. They're like, I can't
understand.
understand a thing he's saying.
It's
like,
so
how?
stupid. I'm like, I've always been a guy that can discern foreign accents, so it won't be a problem for me. But look, at this point, I'm 0 for 2, so I'll take any sort of help I can get. But thank you again, Vince, for joining. And until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert Wolfman.
I'm Vincent DiSanti.
And remember, stay scared. And we are out. All right, Vin. Thank you very much, sir.
Nice. Yeah, that was fun.
Just under 2